We have so many questions that come to our office, and I'm assuming by the fact that you're here today that perhaps you have the same sort of questions coming to you about older drivers and the challenges that go along with older drivers. So we also had the opportunity to do some programs called CARFIT, which I think you'll have a commercial about later on. And through that CARFIT program, we met our presenters for today. So in order to answer some of the many questions that come to all of us in the field about older drivers and what the resources and guidelines are, we felt it was important to include this presentation in our series. So today with us we have Nanette Shiki, who is the Chief of the Driver Safety Division with the Maryland Department of Transportation. We also have with us, and ladies, if you could wave your hands, Dr. Gina Perval, who will also be presenting today, and she is the Chief of the Medical Advisory Board for the Maryland Department of Transportation. And then also we have Carol Wheatley, and Carol will be presenting today as well, and she is with MedStar's Good Samaritan Hospital Outpatient Rehab Program. And Keisha also is here. Is she here? Yes. Hi, Keisha. Keisha is here also, and I think I don't know, not sure if she's going to speak or not, but we welcome her and we're glad she's here. She's like, no, I'm not speaking. Don't ask me. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Nanette so that she can share with you the information. We'll be trading out presenters as we go through. And welcome again, everybody.
Thank you, Karen. All right, welcome, everybody. Happy to be here, and we're going to jump right in, although I do have to say I was so excited to see what exit I had to get off of 95-24. Because not too far from there on 524 is the best crab cakes in the world. So I will be stopping at Box Hill Pizzeria on the way home.
Very, very good.
Yes. So I have a friend from work that lives up this way. He turned me on to that a year or so ago. Every time I come up this way, I have to get some crab cakes. So I'm excited about that. And so we have a small enough group here. I think we'll be able to have some exchange. We've got a lot of information to go through. I do want to point out that you have a packet here, and in the packet on the right side, you'll see that we created a little agenda. It tells you what the learning objectives are for today and the materials that we're going to cover. It has contact information for all four of us, so that you'll be able to email us later if you come up with a question afterwards. And then you also have a copy of each of the 3 PowerPoints, so you can take some notes as we're going along. On the left-hand side is a ton of paperwork, and I felt bad about killing all those trees. But we have a lot of information we wanted to share, and some of it we will refer to as we're going through the presentations. So just to lay that out. Also, you received a survey, a 1-page survey that looks like this. This is the survey that we provide to as a pre-survey to anybody who gets the booklet. Somebody hold up a booklet because I didn't bring one up here with me. Okay, so the Maryland Resource Guide for Aging Drivers is new. This is the 2nd edition, but we had just a tiny little couple of thousand copies that we put out last year, made some tweaks to it. And we've got some great information from these pre-surveys. You have a few folks in Harford County that are giving these out with the pre-surveys. I understand last Saturday at some event they gave some out. So just keep that in mind. All right, so our main thing that we want you to remember today is to think about the driving task in everything that you do. So in your work, with your customers, with your clients, think about the driving task and think about what you can do to help to just make sure that people know what their resources are to be able to get the help that they need to keep driving safely as long as possible. So that's our main thing that we want to do here. Why is older driver safety important? Well, here's a couple of issues on why. Older adults who stop driving, and this is from a AAA Foundation survey a few years ago, older adults who stop driving are almost 50% more at risk for depression and other health issues. So we're not in the business of bringing this information to people in order to take their license. So we want to help with this as a prevention, and we want to make sure that people do continue driving as safely as they can, as long as they possibly can. So the research does tell us that we are going to probably outlive our ability to drive. And this was from one survey. It's a little dated now, but it's good information. Of course, if you knew when that date was, when you were going to pass, then you'd be able to calculate it very easily. But we have to consider the transportation as we age because of this issue. So older adults are also a lot more likely to be injured because of the frailty issue, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. And already, if you look at the numbers for Maryland drivers, 44% are 50 and above. 50 is not old. But it is when AARP comes after us, and it's also when our body starts to change, and it's those changes that may cause health issues that may affect the driving. So that's what we're talking about here. And this is the bottom line message that we try to get out in all of our programs, empowering drivers with the knowledge, the tools, the resources, and you professionals as well, to continue driving as long as safely possible. So we do a lot of work around the state. Last year we had 900 people that we presented to and did trainings for. And we have had 3 statewide symposiums as well, where we bring people together and talk about the best practices, the latest research. So we're out there and we're busy. We're a small but mighty unit that's trying to help to spread the word. And you folks are most important because you can help to leverage this information with all the people that you work with. So we're excited to bring this to you, and no doubt it's going to have a professional impact, and sometimes people are thinking about a personal impact as well. But there is a higher risk of health issues with age that are likely to affect the driving. And with the growing numbers of older drivers, there is definitely an increased demand on professionals. So this is another reason why it's very important. These are the main groups that we try to get the word to: law enforcement, healthcare, clinicians, physicians, social workers. So these are the reasons why. We'll have a little bit of fun here. Just take a minute. And this is going to be a little difficult from afar, but we're going to call out any names that you might remember, and then I'm going to ask if anybody knows why these faces might be important. Anybody have any ideas about who these folks are? True. Okay, so we're going to guess why they're important first. Do we know any names? Yep. Kurt Russell. Robin Williams. Yes, Susie Orman. Yes. Pam Dauber. Linda Carter. I think we got them all. Yes, Mark Harmon. Anybody know the relationship, Mark Harmon and Pam Dauber? Yeah? Longest running Hollywood marriage, I think. So Cheryl Ladd. Anybody guess Cheryl Ladd? Up there, one of the angels. I think that we got them all. Good job. And so who said 50 and older? Okay. Any other guesses? Did I hear 60?
60.
Do I hear 65? 65. So they all turned 65 in 2016, actually. So my slide's getting a little dated. I'm going to have to find some new people. But so 65 is when, that's where the statistics start. So if you hear about older driver crashes, it's 65 and up. So what about the licensed drivers here in Maryland? This is a kind of a busy chart, but it tells you, it compares what was happening here in 2000 in the yellow lines, and then the number of drivers in each age category in 2018, so just in January of this year. And you see how some of these categories have changed. Now, it was about 3.5 million in 2000, and it's about 4.3 million right now, so that's the total number. You can see that the ages 50 to 59 is actually the largest group. So that's the largest age cohort of drivers in Maryland. And if you were going to try to cut it down the middle, we talked about 44% and up or 50. It would be right before, right there around 50 years old. Now, the one that grew the most over this time period is actually the 90 and up. You can see the 60 to 69-year-olds, they grew quite a bit, but the 90 and up went from about 7,500 to about 20,000. So that doesn't mean that folks are driving every day, but they still have a valid Maryland driver's license. So what about where they live? And here you can see Harford County is pulled out a little bit. So this is a percentage of the total drivers in that county. So as a percentage of the total drivers, how many are 65 and up? And you can see in Harford County, it's 22%. So the rural counties seem to have the higher percentages of older drivers. So sometimes they're aging in place. Maybe they're moving to the country as they retire. So we don't know the reasons, but that seems to be where the numbers are. Higher percentages in the rural counties. And what about crashes? And we're not talking about crashes, but we are talking about preventing crashes. So this is not the story, but this helps us to understand what it is that we're talking about. If you look at the blue line, that's total crashes for all age groups. And over time, you can see right around 25 to 34, you see it peak. So after age 34, from there on out, folks drive a little bit safer. They have less crashes. It's past that time where you're taking more risk. So after about 34, the crash rates go down. Now, if you look at fault crashes only, then you can see that as a percentage, that the older drivers in the 80 to 89 range are actually on par with the teens. And we always hear about the teen drivers and how there's a big chance of crashes when they first start driving. Actually, the 85 to 95-year-olds as well. And what are those crash types? What do they look like? What's the common theme that you see here? Anybody? Turning. So these are not one-car crashes for the most part. They are two-car crashes or more. Where it intersects with other vehicles at intersections, and especially turning left when there's no signal and there's no, or with a stop sign. So where a decision has to be made. So this is actually national statistics, but it also applies here in Maryland as well. The top 5 reasons, the top 5 crash types for older drivers. So what's going on out there on the road? God bless you. We always try to help people think for a second, what is going on cognitively with your brain? What are you thinking about when you're behind the wheel? There's a ton of things that are going on. You're trying to remember where you've been. You're trying to remember where you're going. You're trying to remember, look at all the stop sign or the signs, the signals, the roadway markings. You're looking at the other vehicles. You're trying to second guess where they're going to go next. Your distance between you and the rest of the vehicles. So you're juggling a lot of competing tasks. And God forbid, that we have some kind of a cognitive issue. This is going to be very difficult. And many of these decisions that you have to make are 1 second, 2 seconds that you might have to make that decision, to make a decision to stop at the intersection and physically put your foot on the brake and make it happen. So these are split-second things that have to happen out there. And this is for all of us. So just a word about the technology. And many of you, especially if you've got late model vehicles, you're seeing a lot more technology in the cars. Know that we as a department are working hard to try to get the word out, to help people to understand how to best use that technology and understand it ourselves, and try to prepare as we move towards eventually self-driving cars. So, but we do see a lot of different, every manufacturer, in fact, every model has different types of technology, different ways of warning the driver, or ways to assist the driver. And so knowing your vehicle, and somebody mentioned CARFIT already, we don't teach this technology in CARFIT just yet, but AARP has a program that's coming that will. So Dr. Praval is going to talk a lot about the medical review process. This slide is just to help you just overall understand that this process does exist. It's in MVA, and that many of the drivers who come through the medical review process still continue to keep their license. So there are things that can be done with driver rehabilitation, which Carol Wheatley is going to talk about as well. So one way that the referrals come into that medical review process is through silver alerts. And we started this program just recently in 2016. And so if you see a silver alert, and you'll see it posted on the signs across the highway sometimes, after they found the person, because that's first and foremost, after they found the person, then MSP shares that information with MVA, and we have our investigators talk to the person, talk to the family, and see if there is a need for a medical review case to be opened. And we did find that most of them still have a valid license when they have a silver alert. Many of them are driving cars that they do own. They're registered in their name. It seems as though there's definitely a need for this information to get fed into the medical review process. This is just one case of a man on the Eastern Shore, and you can see that he was missing for a very long time, from 3:30 on a Saturday till 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, when they finally found him. And of course, it's many, many miles away, and you see how far he traveled. He was safe, he was fine, but he may have still been going, or who knows what had happened. He ran out of gas, and that's how they found him on the side of the road. And this is, not happening every day. Many of the silver alerts they find in the same county or in the neighboring county, but there are some who, do get out of state, and there was one who passed last year, so she was actually found in Pennsylvania deceased. So it is a good collaboration with Maryland Department of Transportation and Maryland State Police that we started, and we're glad to have this program. So just a word about law enforcement. I don't think we have any law enforcement here today. Nobody? Anybody? Okay. But it does help to kind of know what else is going on with law enforcement, with the other legs of the stool that are helping with this issue. And so I just have a slide or two to help you understand that we did create a process, an electronic process for law enforcement to make referrals to MVA of any drivers that they think, there's a red flag that there might be some kind of a medical issue. And you can see that the numbers almost tripled since before deployment of that program in late 2013. So we do have that electronic referral for law enforcement. Not many of them are the result of fatals or personal injuries. Most of them are stops that law enforcement makes, and some of them it's just interactions at the station or elsewhere. So this is tips for law enforcement. I'm gonna, just skip over this, but basically when we do training for law enforcement, we encourage them to make the citation, write the citation, and make the referral if necessary. Many times if it's an older driver, they will tend to, let it slide. And so some of this training is necessary in order to help them know that they are actually helping the person. Maybe, taking that ticket home to have to talk to the family about, to actually get it paid is going to cause some conversation that's definitely necessary. So they're not doing anybody a service by looking the other way. So we encourage them to, like I said, write the ticket, make the referral. So here are some options for what we might term a nervous adult, and you're going to find a lot of these resources. In fact, all of these resources you will find in the little booklet, but just some of the main ones. So I did mention AARP. They've got some great programs for prevention and just staying healthy, mind as well as body, and also the courses that you can take to beef up your skills to maybe get an insurance discount. And then AAA has a lot of programs as well. They've got some wonderful online resources with their Roadwise RX. I just wanted to point out is where you can plug in all your medications and it'll spit out a paper saying, okay, this is the way they might affect your driving, and you can take it to your doctor and talk about it. And then of course MVA's main web page is up here, driver rehab and occupational therapy that Carol's going to talk about, and then the CARFIT program. Whoops, I pushed the wrong button. So here's the resource guide before we talk about CARFIT for a second. So I did tell you that it's new, so you're lucky to have a copy here, and we do have some proctors here in Harford County that are handing them out. With the pre-survey information, we were able to find out most people have an interest in how health and age can impact your driving. So that was the biggest one. More than 50% had that as a question in their minds, and that's why they wanted the booklet. And they also, almost 50%, said that they wanted to sharpen their driving skills and their knowledge. So this is wonderful. That's why they wanted the booklet. Then we did some post surveys. So from the pre-survey, at the bottom of it, you'll see that your contact information, and it's optional, but for those who gave us their information, we did post surveys. And here's what we found. So we have a few more, 11 to 13%, who are now talking to their doctor after reading the information in the booklet. And that's huge. And the more that we can push that number up, the better. Now, we did have two success statistics here on those that are have read the booklet. 45 to 64% are now going to do a self-assessment or an evaluation for their driving ability. And then also from 41 to 66% after the booklet for planning their transportation. And really that's the main thing. We want people to think about that driving task, plan for it as they age, and know what their resources are. So here's some other resources to help, and all of this is in your packet, so I'm not going to read through it. But I do want to take one more minute and talk about CARFIT. So CARFIT, anybody heard of CARFIT? I see, okay, a couple of hands. I'm looking for faces over there at the other location. But CARFIT is a great program that helps you help you to adjust the vehicle so that it can fit you personally. So you actually go through it while you're sitting in your vehicle, and then there are questions that are asked. Most of them deal with where the seatbelt hits you, making sure that it's around on the hip bones, on the lap belt, coming across the shoulder, so that there's not going to be internal injuries. It's going to actually catch you where it counts. So the seatbelt is huge, the head restraint not any more than 3 inches back and making sure that it catches you, and the mirrors. So you're still going to probably have some blind spots, but working with somebody who is going to help you to understand where they are is amazing. So this is a great program. It's something anybody can do. Short 3-hour training to get trained as a tech to do this. And I know that Keisha's trained, so anybody that raised their hand, you can talk to about having a CARFIT locally and getting involved. So lastly, this is a messy slide. And the whole point of this is there's never one way that everybody gets through this process. It takes many people to be prepared to have information and to share that information along the way to help people to get through and think about their transportation as they age. In a perfect world, it'd be great if we all planned for it, we stayed healthy, you get to a certain point, then maybe you're gonna beef up those skills, and maybe you'll go and take a class. But sometimes life hits you in the face. Sometimes there's a medical emergency. Sometimes there's a death in the family. And so things change quickly. So you want to know where to go and what you can do if that happens to you. So I think we're going to keep rolling right along. And we're going to go for questions at the end unless you have any burning questions right now. I'm gonna close this, right? Okay, thank you.